I'm Dr. Annandale, and I teach philosophy at Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland. This video deals with the middle part of Republic Book 1, and the beginning of Socrates' engagement with Thrasymachus. Now, there's a dramatic shift in the dialogue when Thrasymachus enters at 336b. Thrasymachus is an interlocutor unlike any other in the Socratic dialogues. He is not respectful, he's obnoxious, and he's not interested in taking part in this common project of conversation governed by reason to try to arrive at the truth about the definition of justice. Instead, he dismisses the entire conversation as a waste of time. The definition of justice, says Thrasymachus, is obvious to anybody who thinks about it for more than a few minutes, and Socrates is just showing off his rhetorical skill in front of his friends by pretending otherwise. Justice, says Thrasymachus, is obviously just the advantage of the stronger. That's all it ever has been and all it ever will be. Socrates obviously disagrees with this definition, and he will set forth his own account soon enough. Much of the rest of the book, Republic, will be occupied with giving an extended response to Thrasymachus's point of view. But first, Socrates exposes the contradictions in Thrasymachus's view. Socrates thought that a false view will always expose itself as false upon examination and reflection, as we begin to see contradictions in it. True views will withstand the test of examination. This is an important point to remember because it gets right at the heart of what Socratic philosophy is all about. If we subject points of view or beliefs to rational analysis, the false ones will be exposed as false by the contradictions that they generate. This means that philosophy can give us a kind of intellectual hygiene, the ability to, by critical analysis, recognize and either discard or modify false points of view. Starting at 339a, Socrates shows the first contradiction. Thrasymachus admits that sometimes rulers are wrong about what would be to their advantage. But in that case, obeying the ruler's commands is different from doing things that are to the ruler's advantage. When Thrasymachus equates these two, saying that justice is obeying the ruler and doing what is advantageous for the ruler, he contradicts himself. The next step Socrates takes is to argue that every craft or activity seeks the advantage of what it rules over, not its own advantage. He begins this argument around 341a. He gives many examples. My first reading question for you is make some examples of your own. Think of some examples of your own from crafts or activities that you know that seek the advantage or improvement of the thing that they rule over or that they address, rather than the advantage or improvement of the person who exercises the craft or the skill. During Socrates' argument, Thrasymachus makes a lengthy speech, starting at 343b, in which he asserts that justice is more like sheepherding, where the aim of the shepherd is to fatten the sheep for slaughter, and so for the shepherd's own advantage. In the course of this speech, he also makes the claim that a just person always gets less than an unjust person. In other words, it is always to our advantage to do the unjust thing if we can, because being just or playing by the rules just doesn't get you ahead in life. Note here that Thrasymachus uses his words carelessly. Earlier he had said that justice was the advantage of the stronger, but now he seems to be praising injustice as being advantageous. Socrates tries to force Thrasymachus to take more care with what he is saying. Moving slowly through an argument will lead us to the truth, while careless speeches will lead us astray into error. He insists again that no craft seeks the advantage of the craftsman, arguing that this is why craftsmen are paid for their work. So, for example, the medical skill of a doctor is, by its very nature, aimed at benefiting other people and their health. And it's for this reason that we compensate the doctor for the use of his skill by giving him money. If his skill were directed at his own advantage by its very nature, there would be no need to bring money or some extra compensation into the transaction. But what about rulers? Socrates argues that good people will not seek money or honor for ruling. Instead, They rule because their only alternative is to be ruled by someone worse than themselves. Socrates says, in a city of good men, if it came into being, the citizens would fight in order not to rule, just as they do now in order to rule. There, it would be quite clear that anyone who is really and truly a ruler does not naturally seek what is advantageous to himself, but what is advantageous for his subjects. So my second reading question for you. In our society in the 21st century, do you think the best people to rule are the people who least want to rule? And why or why not? There are some interesting questions at play here about the relationship between power and virtue, and the question of what qualities are required in order to be a good ruler, in order to be successful at the task of political leadership. Socrates then says that he is going to leave this question and pursue another point Thrasymachus made, namely that the life of an unjust person is better than the life of a just person. This is a question that I'll take up in a later video. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.